Boxers, trainers, fans, pencil pushers, welcome to another week of the No Decision Podcast. It is I, Wes Ibarra, and my favorite sparring partner, Jared Joy Villapando. All right, Joy, everybody showed up to the gym tonight. Are you ready to open up? We got a four-rounder.
I'm ready. Let's get it on.
All right, let's ring the bells. Let's go into round one. In round one, we're going to crush it with Crusher Kovalev. Unfortunately, our guy tested positive for a banned substance by VADA, thus canceling his big fight on January 30th with Bektamir Melikuziev, aka Beck the Bully.
Hmm.
This was supposed to be his way back after getting ding donged by Canelo, Joy. And by
Yeah,
he, I mean Crusher.
yeah,
And Melikuziev is no joke. Beck the Bully is going up in the rankings in that weight class.
right.
So
So this was his first
testing
test.
positive,
This is pretty much,
I
yeah,
believe. I believe so. Yeah, and yeah, it's not good.
yeah,
I
it's
don't
not good.
think it's not a good look, especially if this is supposed to be your confidence or comeback fight. So, Joy, what do you think of Crusher testing positive according to the VADA or VADA?
It's definitely not a good look for Kovalev. So I mean, I'm always tired of the excuse that a lot of athletes say, like, I didn't know. Well, okay, there's a lot of process to when you get tested for a banned substance, or when you would know, if you're using something banned, uh, when you're just using something not natural. Um, well, that's the thing. Like, this was, you said it, Wes. This was supposed to be a comeback fight for Crusher, um, after he got knocked out by Canelo Alvarez, right? Maybe, Kovalev is up there too. He's getting up there in age. Maybe, he felt that he's not as strong as he once was when he fought Andre Ward. He wasn't, perhaps, maybe he felt that he needed a little bit more help, especially against Melikuziev, who is climbing up the ranks. And this was supposed to be Melikuziev's, like, pretty much his big test against a Kovalev, who's a pretty good veteran of boxing, right? So, if anything, Kovalev, would have probably taken him to school, but Melikuziev is a lot stronger. It's a lot faster. He's a lot younger. So Kovalev probably thought that he needed help after, he lost to Canelo Alvarez, a guy who is pretty much a middleweight, right? Like, he pretty much walks around as a middleweight. And Kovalev, I believe he's in light heavy, right, Wes? Or
Yes.
yeah,
So this fight would have taken place at light heavyweight.
exactly. So obviously that's gonna take a lot your confidence away. And like you said, Wes, this was supposed to be his confidence builder against Melikuziev, a guy who is very young. So, like, this is supposed to be his come up fight. Beating Kovalev would have skyrocketed Melikuziev up there. So yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm disappointed, but again, a lot of fighters will usually do anything just to feel stronger, younger, faster. But this is not the answer. Test. Getting tested positive for banned substance. Just anything that you're not taking naturally. Of course, it's you're gonna get caught.
Sure. Um, I mean, granted, when you did say when how athletes sometimes say, "I didn't know,"
Right.
sometimes it can be. It could also be a tainted uh,
Me. Yeah.
sample, right? That
Right.
the doping agency must have just fucked it up somehow.
Yeah. It could have been.
But of course, we're gonna take the news for what it is,
Right.
right? So the bout is called off.
Right.
So for both Crusher and Beck the Bully, I'll make it easier for you, Joy. We'll just call Bektimir Milikuziev Beck the Bully from now on because that's his nickname.
Okay.
So what are we gonna get? Are we gonna see it anyway in the future? Because this was supposed to be a fight over the zone, and this
Yeah.
was supposed to be fought in Kovalev's backyard of Russia. So could we see this again, like a reschedule? Like, okay, let's settle all the legal things first and then come back? Or do you think Melkuziev is better off fighting somebody else. Same
Well,
with Kovalev,
well, Wes, let me ask you this: who was the one that administered the test?
VADA.
And are they? I'm sorry, I'm not very familiar with them. Are they a European? Uh, are you?
I would assume that they are worldwide,
They're worldwide.
much
Okay,
much
cool, cool.
like WADA and all those other
Right.
testing agencies that they have to
Yeah.
watch.
I mean, I only I.
They have to watch. They have to watch basically fighters pee into a cup.
Well, yeah, I only say this because I know the Nevada State Commission would pretty much hand out suspensions.
No, not NSAC.
Right.
VADA.
No, no, but that's what I'm saying is that if had they been in Nevada, had the fight been in Nevada, I know that for sure there would be like a pretty lengthy penalty for Kovalev, and
Sure.
I think that would have definitely postponed or not, pretty much canceled the entire fight, because then Kovalev would have to serve his suspension. Now I don't know if this, the company that administered the test does that, if they pretty much just keep testing him until he's still negative, or like, I'm not really sure like what their process is, but I know for sure uh, when the Nevada State Commission, if there is a fight that's being held in Nevada, they will make sure that like there's also a penalty and some, there's definitely gonna be like a consequence to your actions. Like you can't just fight right away.
Well, right, and in this case with the VADA, VADA,
Right.
the fight is off,
Oh, okay. Cool, cool, cool.
and so yeah, I
So
mentioned that
yeah, yeah. So I don't
seconds
think.
ago.
Yeah. So I don't
So
think.
what I was asking is, um, do you think so? What's basically the future? Do you think are we gonna get a makeup, or are they just gonna go their separate ways?
I don't. I think they're gonna go to separate ways. I think at that time,
Okay,
if Melokuziev finds a better, or just a fighter to go up against, he'll probably climb up the ranks, and Kovalev will probably have to find someone else that he can fight, and then at that point they're probably in two totally different trajectories in their career. So
sure.
yeah.
Okay, Joy.
I guess
That's Mark's round.
yeah. Sorry,
Yes.
I guess I thought that question was, will Melokuziev wait for Kovalev to be cleared first?
No,
Yeah.
no. I clearly said what's gonna be future for both fighters. Are we gonna get a makeup, or are we just gonna see Melkuzia fight both,
Yeah.
or should I say both men fight someone else? And then there you go. There's the answer.
Yeah.
But okay, that's the end of the first round. Second round, Joe. We cannot waste this round. Why? Because the topic of this round is Eddie Hearn, and Eddie Hearn doesn't want anyone, let alone the both of us, to
Right.
waste his time. So let's not waste any time. Okay. So he claims he's making progress with Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury.
Right.
Okay, he says don't waste my time. He says piss off. He does things to make me laugh and you laugh.
Right.
Is he teasing us, Joy, or do you think this is real?
Oof. Oof.
I
mean,
think he's teasing us.
I think he's teasing us. I I love Eddie. I think we've said that in the previous podcast. We think he's pretty much the best promoter right now. But come on, Eddie. You're not. It's not 24 hours that you're making
yeah,
this fight.
he just landed Canelo Alvarez too, so
Right.
he's magic.
Right, yeah, there's nothing that he could do wrong right now, unless he can't make the Joshua Fury fight. But like, I mean, if he's making progress with Joshua Fury, then by all means, like, I don't want to bother you. I don't want to take any more of your time, but you better make it happen, because this is pretty much the fight that we all want to see, right? This is for the undisputed
Sure.
heavyweight world champion.
Right, and I mean, of course, there's also a lot of other moving parts too. Like,
Absolutely.
the promoters for they want it in Saudi Arabia.
Absolutely.
Of course, Frank Warren, Queensberry,
Mm.
um, MTK, which helps brand Tyson Fury, Bob Arum,
Right.
who also takes care of his other promotional ordeals. But yeah, it's a lot of moving parts, and like I said before, it could be literally like Mayweather Pacquiao, where it's like years held off, and then the one time they finally fight, it could just be where no one's like, come on,
Yeah.
really now, and then at that point, like you said with Beck the Bully and Crusher, both guys could be at different trajectories of their careers at that point,
Yeah, yeah,
and
absolutely,
they're both north of 30.
right,
Let's not forget that too.
exactly.
So
And I don't know. I mean, I will also say Anthony Joshua has teased retirement for quite some time now. Of course, I don't take it literally. I think he is teasing, but I mean, Joshua, I mean, I could see a future where he's not in boxing, right? He could definitely, he has the face. He's a good looking dude. He could go in TV shows, he could go into movies. So he definitely has a career after boxing. Um, and that's the thing, right? Like, we want this fight to happen right now because these are two
mhm.
men that are in their prime. So definitely, definitely, as long as Eddie Hearns is making progress, I'll give him as much room as he, he needs.
Well, I will also say, Joy, to bring up that one side note that you had about AJ is that, well, at least AJ, not that nobody else is aware of this, but it's good that AJ realizes that there is a life after boxing,
Right.
right? And that's what most athletes have to do when they're playing or fighting careers are
Mm,
over. They got to find a way to sustain themselves,
right.
whether that's building a business or whatever.
Family.
But yeah,
Yeah.
family. But yeah, no. So let's hope that Eddie Hearn is making headway with Joshua versus Fury.
Yeah.
Of course, promoters are very good at trying to sell the notion of negotiations to the people. But right now, we think it's complete BS, really.
Yes.
But if you, the listeners, are buying it, let us know, or
Yeah.
if you agree with us, or if there's some other tactic that you think he's trying to employ. But that's round two. No time wasted. Perfect. Round three. Hola Miami on February 27th. We got Canelo versus Yildirim officially booked. Joy and I have spent the last few weeks talking about this fight. Of course, not in very high favor, but
Right.
now that the details are set out. February 27th, Miami Hard Rock Stadium. So that's the football stadium down there. Very big, a lot of people
Mm,
capacity. Of course, there will be limited capacity due to coronavirus procedures. It'll be carried over the zone.
right.
Um, and so Canelo stays within the Zone family. And as a bonus, he's signed a 2-year promotional deal with Matchroom. So
Mm,
shout out to our boy Eddie Hearn. But Joy, Miami. Mm-mm-mm.
mm.
What are we thinking about this unification fight in super hot South Beach? Muy
Yeah.
sexy.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely, we've definitely spoken about this fight a lot. So like, I mean, my feelings hasn't changed. You know, Canelo. Like, it's funny because Timothy Bradley has also spoken against this fight. He kind of questions why Canelo would have to fight Yildirim. Of course, he's a mandatory fighter, and this is the thing about sanctioning. Bodies that pretty much control title fights, right? We're not gonna get the fights that we want because they have mandatory fighters that you have to fight when you win the championship. Um, but you know, it's always great to see Canelo Alvarez. I will admit that I haven't seen a lot of Yildirim, which will pretty much tell you, it's probably going to be a wipeout. But the same thing was said against Andy Ruiz and Anthony Joshua, right? But I think Canelo is he's a little too good for that. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm excited. Like I said, any Canelo fight you know, is exciting already because the dude is just so skilled. He's he's gotten so much better at head movement and defense, just in general. He seems like he's gotten a lot more powerful as he's gained weight, gone up the ranks, and he's super skilled. He can see pretty much a lot of the things that his opponents can see, so that can't see. So yeah.
Absolutely, I totally agree. I think that loss to Floyd Mayweather for Canelo was like a big wake up call on where he has to do,
Right.
and what he has to do in growing up.
Right.
And obviously, he's progressed very well in the where and the what.
Hmm.
Obviously, he looks great. He beat a guy that was basically twice his size
Pretty much, yeah.
not too long ago,
Not too long ago.
and people were giving Callum Smith a chance to win. Shoot, I was giving caution to Callum Smith as well,
Yeah,
to be honest.
absolutely.
But yeah, with that, Yildirim was coming off a loss, and his last fight was back in, I believe,
19, right?
2019.
Yeah.
Yes, and he lost to
So
Anthony Durrell. So
yeah,
yeah, we'll see.
we'll see.
Anything can happen.
Right.
I guess my defense here will be look up Ledwaba v Pacquiao. Anything can happen,
Anything can happen.
right? Not I don't want Canelo to lose. I will reiterate
All
that.
right.
But Joy, I wanted to ask you one more thing. So we got your general reaction about it, right? But how about that
Location.
location? Like I said,
Oh,
Miami, muy sexy. So thumbs up or
Miami.
thumbs down?
That's a thumbs up. I feel like the zone. I mean, obviously, West. We've spoken about this also in the last podcast, right? Like where Eddie Hearn goes, or like where Bob Arum went. You know, Top Rank was there, and MGM Grand was there, and HBO Sports was there. It seems as though with with Matchroom or like whatever, pretty much. I'm not really sure. Like Canelo, is he signed with Matchroom, or is he just kind of
It's for the
acting?
next. It's for two fights.
Right.
So for this fight and another fight to be named after this one. So,
Right.
if you are following our show or the boxing landscape very closely, that second fight you can make your own assumptions on who that name would be.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, and it's not one particular name. I will give you a hint there. But anyhow, yeah. So, what are we thinking about Miami Hard Rock?
Yeah. I'm excited. Like I said, uh, the zone and Matchroom do a great job of giving us these, like, pretty much events, like being hosted at arenas or stadiums that we never would have thought of, right? At some point, we only thought that the only football stadium that could hold these events was Cowboy Stadium, right? AT&T.
Well, also there was
Right.
Alamo Dome
Right. Right. Exactly.
in San Antonio. That's
Right.
where Callum Smith fought
Right.
Canelo.
And then
Um,
the explosion of Matchroom gave us pretty much UK based fights, and we're talking about Joshua Fury, which could be hosted in the Middle East. So I think it's great. I think it's great for boxing because now we're back to traveling the entire world. Not every fight has to be in MGM. So yeah, I'm excited. I would like to see another fight in Madison Square Garden, but the last one I saw was Joshua Andrew Ruiz, and I don't think there's any that's been held after. But you know, obviously, like yeah. So, like I said, I'm excited to see uh, the Hard Rock Stadium host
mhm.
a boxing match. Oh, yeah,
Yeah, no, and I think that will be the first time either man has fought in a big arena outside.
right,
So I hope it doesn't rain that night. It shouldn't, but because I'm sure they thought about all of that, right? But yeah, no, it's gonna be like a football stadium. I think that's the first time Canelo has fought in such an environment.
mm,
Um, especially in America, that's kind of very rare to come by
right,
these days, right? Like AT&T is a retractable roof stadium, so
right,
they could close that thing to make it temperature controlled,
right.
right? Wembley is a retractable roof, so they could make it
Chartable roof,
closed
right,
if they can and climate controlled. Hence Anthony Joshua, right? And then you got this. This is probably like the first of its kind. So shouts to Matchroom
yeah,
for putting it all together. And I will say, it's really remarkable the job that that Eddie Hearn and Canelo and Matchroom that they've all have done, and I
yeah,
know they're going to be having lots of viewers that night. And
yeah,
it's probably going to be a pro Canelo crowd too.
yeah. Absolutely, yeah. I agree.
And I will say though, as Americans' joy, I will say I think the state of Florida just won all of February,
February.
because Tampa Bay is going to have the Super Bowl. So
And if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers reach the Super Bowl,
oh my gosh, it's like all right, everybody move, but don't move to Florida because coronavirus is a little bit of a it's probably the Michael Jordan mansion of
right.
coronavirus in the United States. Florida is.
It's popping. It's popping in Tampa right now. It's popping in Florida.
Anyway, that's just our shit talk there for that round. But yes, Canelo versus Avni Yildirim, February 27th at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, Florida. That will be carried over the zone. Yildirim is a mandatory challenger to, I believe, the WBC belt, but this fight will be unification.
Yeah.
So a lot of prizes on the line for both men. We think one guy's going to win, but anything can happen.
Right.
But that's the end of round three. And actually, before we go to round four, folks, let us know what you think about the location, if it's a thumbs up or a thumbs down, the implications of this fight, and what you think would happen. Anyhow, round four, last round of the night before we close it up. Joy, you ready?
Yes.
All right, let's touch it up. Let's hug it out, maybe. Anyway, we're going to have some fun. So, as you all know, there's a lot of video games over the years that have depicted combat sports, right?
Mm.
So nowadays we have the UFC games. In the early 2000s, there were the Fight Night games. In the 90s and around the start of the decade, there was Knockout Kings by EA Sports. You also had Punch Out, and then I guess there's the more cultish WWE games. And EA Sports also had an MMA game too, where it was just like all kinds of MMA fighters, not UFC in particular, but MMA fighters. So, Joy, you and I have been playing these games, types of video games since we were kids. We both pretty much played it all. PlayStation, right. Xbox, whatever. Punch Out was a little bit ahead of or behind us
right.
at that point, and same with Knockout Kings. But what was your favorite fighting game and why? So just pick one.
Okay.
And why do you think it's the best?
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I grew up with Fight Night Round 3. Fight Night Round 3 was, it had the Golden Boy, the De La Hoya cover. And I feel like, it wasn't like a simulator. Like the physics of the boxers definitely didn't match a lot of the real styles, the real fighting styles of some of these boxers, which they changed in later iterations of the game. But I loved it because it was so much fun. There was like my favorite thing was me and my brother's favorite thing was like when you parry a punch from your opponent, like they seem to like put their hands down and like they can't block, and then you could just throw savage combinations.
Yeah, you can throw like a 10 puncher right back.
Exactly, and so
if you had it on easy mode, it's 20.
Exactly, and so it was a lot of fun. It was definitely the game that that made me and my brother fall in love more with boxing, because we couldn't, pretty much just box it out every weekend. So stepping into the virtual ring was a lot more. It was more fun because, like I said, the game wasn't too serious. It didn't take itself too seriously. There was definitely a lot of things you wouldn't see in a boxing match or in a 24/7. Like, your your trainer could be free, and he could just be wearing a tank top, and he'll train you in his personal gym, in his personal training room. But I just love that game. It was so much fun. I wish I get another copy. I'm pretty sure the copies right now are like really expensive, but I would probably buy a copy of Fight Night Round 3.
Hey, $15 on GameStop for Xbox 360.
Ooh.
Possibly cheaper if you can get it at like those used video game stores.
Yeah.
And side note for not only just you, Joy, but also the listeners, Manny Pacquiao, the way he's depicted in that game, if you leave that mental image in your head for too long, you're not going to be able to sleep and you're going to have nightmares. EA never got Pacquiao's like this right. Let's just say that right now, Joy.
Yeah. It was definitely fun.
Yeah. I was thinking about this, Joy, for me, and I really had a hard time picking because we have a couple of those different series at my house. Though I wasn't very good at this one, my sister was. I actually enjoyed UFC.
Is it 3?
I believe it's either 2 or 3.
Okay,
Yeah, but she has one
three.
of the more later ones.
Yeah, I heard three
And I
was the
actually
best one.
I actually enjoyed that more than Fight Night
Yeah,
Champion or Fight Night Round 4.
yeah,
Though I will say the physics on that game were unrealistic. Like for example, if you had the Bruce Lee downloadable character, if you roundhouse kicked like Conor McGregor or something and you knocked him out, Conor McGregor can go full helicopter and land across the octagon
Alright.
somehow.
Oh, it's the fun of the game.
Well, yeah, I mean, I understand. We also got to realize that it's a little bit arcadish, but at the
Right.
same time, UFC was my favorite because it made you actually like okay, like you can master blocking and Floyd Mayweathering your way through Fight Night,
Yeah.
but try get it not getting tackled to the ground by Khabib Nurmagomedov or
Yeah.
getting I don't know elbowed by John Jones or Conor McGregor
Yeah.
or try not to get mauled by Ronda Rousey, right?
Right.
Or maybe not get caught up in the look of Michelle Watterson and you're not paying attention and boom, she knocks you out.
Right.
Lol. That's just my side joke there. Don't get mad at me, fans. But it's because it was such a different discipline. And yes, we grew up with boxing joy, but then again, it's like watching that game, you had to kind of like figure out and learn other fighting styles too.
Right.
Because in MMA, it's more than one.
Yeah.
Like you could have a guy that's good at boxing and wrestling at the same
Right.
time,
Mm-hmm.
while his opponent is good at kickboxing and Jeet Kune Do.
Right.
And then it's like, oh my god, who's gonna win, the puncher or the kicker?
Right.
So that's what I like, and also like the venues, the graphics. Granted, I am comparing two different systems, right? Like yours was
Right.
at the highest 360, and then mine it could be Xbox One, PS4, PS5, and is it Series X or whatever it's called,
Yes.
the new one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So I understand I'm comparing two different games, so it's obviously two different resolutions, but at the same time, I kind of liked watching UFC a little bit more,
Right.
um, or watching gameplay of UFC a little bit more. But when it comes to the real thing, I prefer to watch boxing. Let's just make that clear.
Okay.
But yeah, that was my favorite. That's my favorite fighting game. Of course, someday I want to try out like Knockout Kings or Punch Out.
Punch out.
Joy, I would love to have you join me if I
Ooh.
ever get my hands on those games.
Absolutely.
Doesn't matter. Definitely maybe share it with you all, the fans. But speaking of you all, pencil pushers, boxers, trainers, fans, let us know what your favorite fight game was. And again, no wrong answer.
No.
Everybody likes what they like at the WJ gym.
Right.
And don't be ashamed to say you like WWE. It's all good, bro. Or sis. It's all good. It's all good. So yes, okay, Joy, that's the end of round 4. So you're Fight Night round 3. I'm UFC. Uh, do we have any closing remarks or any boxing related items you wanted to share with the rest of the gym before we close it up tonight?
No, that's pretty much it for me.
No? Okay. Well, everyone, thank you for coming to the gym tonight. Hope you enjoyed working out with us, making the rounds with us. We're closed now. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. But for what it's worth, you can always come back next week. Why? Because we got a fresh training set for you that week. But until then, for Joy Villapando, I'm Wes Ibarra. Have a great night.
Have a good night.